this is because we have really kind of thought that our feelings are really, created from an external stimuli. So something happens, somebody says something, and we bubble up inside. Something doesn't sit right with us. And that feeling that comes in, leaves us sometimes uneasy, sometimes it leaves us feeling sad. And then we sort of, we get a bit confused because now we're thinking everything that we're feeling inside is actually as a result of what is coming from the outside. And as we continue with this journey of meditation, we start to realize that actually it's not really, the complete, sort of truth. And so perhaps let's just define feeling. And a definition, perhaps a dictionary definition, is that feeling is perception by touch. So for example, if somebody walks into a shop and they want to get a sense of something, say for example, fabric, they'll touch the fabric. What does it feel like? Does it feel soft? Does it feel easy on the skin? Is it too hard or harsh? And based on that perception that we have, we will then, obviously make our decision. And so similarly, with our feelings, this is also kind of, where we get a sense. So sometimes something is happening outside of us, and then we gauge it by how we are feeling. And so somebody says something which is maybe very filled with anger, and immediately our feeling, what happens? We also start to get a little nervous because we think, if this person's angry and I say something, it's going to increase their anger. It's going to make situations worse. And so really what we are operating on is sometimes just on the external, which is very much the logic element of ourselves. And I think this is where the disparity comes, because as individuals, our first kind of response or reaction is to be logical. And in many instances, we can't always reason things on a logical level. Many things, yes, make sense, and, we can sort of deal with it. But on another level, there's something that goes beyond logic. And, sometimes this is the kind of difficulty people experience, because all things can't be explained, in a very logical way. And why spirituality or meditation helps us is because it allows us to actually connect with something which allows us to understand things that do happen. So we call it a subtle flavor, an intuitive awareness. So sometimes you've had the experience, something is happening, and you need to make a decision, and logic will tell you, no, don't do this, because these are the reasons, this is the fact. But then from an inner level, you get a sense, a feeling, they call it the gut feeling, to do something which kind of defies logic. And at that point, it's such a strong feeling, a strong kind of intuitive awareness. And so as you act on it, you then, when you think about it later, it was the correct thing to do. And so now how do you make, kind of sense of all of this? And the only explanation sometimes that, one can have is that intuitive part is really the part of yourself that is truly connected to who you are and what you are. So it has like a kind of an awareness which is completely aligned to your truth. So it's because we don't, sit quietly, we don't always access that intuitive awareness that is inside of ourselves. But that's why they say that, sometimes it's not that we don't know the answers. We all know the answers to the questions that we are going through. But when we can experience the answers is when we remain still, when we remain at peace, when we reflect. That's when those answers become clear to us. And so often what happens is our lives are so busy, you know, we're running around doing this, running around doing that. We're occupied with this, or sometimes we even trying to occupy ourselves in a way to distract ourselves. And that could be quite dangerous, because we then lose complete connection with, you know, what is innately true and good for ourselves. So I think, like how Jenny had said, you know, perhaps when all those things were taking place, maybe that then prompted her to, you know, then sort of seek to, you know, be more quiet, find moments and opportunities to meditate. And I think for us, something becomes a reason for us to turn inside into ourselves and find, you know, opportunities to really bring out the answers that are actually inside of us. And sometimes you might think, but how does it actually work, you know? And I think this is the big question, because only until you understand how it works for you will you then embark on this process of, you know, reflection, of being quiet, of being still. And it's not, you know, many times the amount of time we're sitting, but it's actually the consistency, you know, that we can use in our day. So little moments, you know, as we start our morning, as we proceed into our day, and you'll find that it's most useful to you, because it's like a checking point, you know, through the day. It's like a checking in and assessing how I'm doing, how I'm feeling, what are the reactions I've allowed myself to kind of get into. And then it gives you a moment, and it's a quick one, you know, just a second, reflecting inside. Okay, why did I say this? Why did I act in this way? Could I have done it a bit differently? And as you check into yourself, you know, it's a beautiful opportunity to then press like a refresh button, like on the computer, you know, and then everything just then starts to, you know, get back to its, you know, sort of workability again. And so when I do this for myself, I'm less likely to get caught up in the emotional spin that sometimes is projected, you know, in front of me. And I think a lot of things that drive our emotion is belief. So many times, you know, somebody will say, but this is how you should do things. This is, you know, the norm. This is the expectations of how we understand things. And that would sometimes conflict in yourself, because for you, it doesn't feel like that is the thing to do. And so I think when you really take a moment to understand yourself, it's at that point that you can come out with a true expression of yourself. And this is a very important part of this authenticity, you know, and to be true to who you are, because when you are true to yourself, you know, you will always act from a space that will not harm or hurt others, neither yourself nor others. And so this is your gauge also, you know, to really get a sense that, how am I acting? Is this firstly, you know, making me feel bad? Or is it a good kind of expression? And when you get that answer, then you know that how you are acting, how you are interacting is really of true benefit, not just to oneself, but to others as well. And then, you know, the sort of atmosphere that you generate based on your activity will be something of great value. And so another thing that influences us a lot is also, you know, as we've grown up as people, as young people, we've always looked at others for guidance. So how people have, you know, acted, those things stay in my memory. And I will use that, in responding to either similar situations. And often, it is that person's, ability to kind of act. And that's the example that they have shared. But it's equally important for me to also look into my own being and know that I also have, that inner resource of truth that I can act with and act upon. So often what happens is sometimes when something's happening, like somebody's being mean to another person, what would happen? You as the observer, as you look on that situation, you will identify with that person, so you'll start to feel sad. You'll start to feel, a little bit awkward. But in a sense, this is also an important opportunity for you to also, just take a step back internally in your own mind and know that what is playing out there is, something, that's trying to tug at your heartstrings. So if somebody's being mean, you will then also start to feel a little bit of, sadness for that individual who is being spoken to in that way. But just think about it. If somebody is sad and you are also sad, what are you able to share with that person? And, you're only going to be able to give them something that's going to make them more sad. So to be able to genuinely, make a difference and help, I need to be at a higher vibrational level. So even though the external scene for that individual who I'm looking at is playing out, some negative element or some criticism, but what I'm going to do is vibrate on a higher level, an understanding of self-awareness, of self-respect, of dignity. And if I vibrate on that level and then I send my thoughts, to that individual who's going through whatever, it will actually help them to shift them, to a higher level. And when I can interact with them through my words, again, I can actually inspire them. I don't have to kind of drag them down in that, feeling of sadness or feeling less of themselves. And so, in a way, I think when we as individuals realize how we can make a difference, how we can, be of value, then it also helps us to keep ourselves at a higher level. So in any environment, think about yourself. Sometimes you're in a meeting and there's a lot of tension, a lot of anxiety in terms of what's being said. At that point, you can succumb to that vibration to say, hey, you know what, I also feel a bit insecure here. But when you can just take a moment and just step into your own self-awareness of power, of peace, of inner authority, then you know that you can have an influence. And how you can do this is to just experiment that even though you're not saying anything, but what you're thinking, will then generate a vibration. So in that meeting, somebody is maybe talking about something that could be harmful for you and your colleagues. Then at that point, just in your own mind, just create a very beautiful and powerful awareness of sending peace and power, wisdom to that individual who's speaking and your colleagues who are also around, or your family, or whoever it may be, who are affected in that situation. And as you can do that, you will start to also see visibly that, the people around you will also feel different. And so in many ways, we talk to people, whether it's on the telephone, whether it's face to face, whether it's, when you go shopping, all those interactions, if I'm in a better state of mind, I have the opportunity to uplift somebody, and not that I have any ego about it, but it is through an understanding, that I know what I can do. So for example, if somebody has fallen down, and there's a kind of a puddle there, what would you do as the person? Would you push them down further? Let them go further into the puddle and hurt some more? Or would you understand that the benefit would be to lend a hand and lift them up? And I think the latter is what you would understand when you know that what is of benefit to that individual. At that point, they need that hand to be lifted out of that puddle. And then they can, make further progress and clean themselves up and get help, whether it's a bit of medication or, something that will help them heal their wound, etc. So that could be a very physical example, but I think on an internal level, emotions sometimes take away from us because we're always in that reactive mode. If somebody says something, immediately we just get into that point where we start to, feel bad, or we feel sad, or we feel angry. But in a way, how we can make a difference is to never let go of something that is innately in us, like our joy or our peace, our happiness, our self-respect. And if we do succumb, if we do get emotional, just, don't be harsh on yourself, but also set yourself, in the right direction again. So if I've reacted, I've said something nasty, then let me have the humility to apologize to the person who I've been harsh or angry with, because I realized that that was just, something I acted out of from a space of a lack of awareness. And so internally, we can really help ourselves by, kind of being conscious. And if we've acted in unconsciousness or in a lack of wisdom, we can be humble enough and sort of share our, our learnings from that particular situation. And maybe just lastly, I wanted to share this element that, when we are unhappy, that's also most likely when our emotional state, becomes like this roller coaster, because we're looking for that happiness either through the interaction with other people, other people's acknowledgements or affirmations of us. And in that state, we'll always be needing, we'll always be wanting from the outside. And so really getting to a point where, we become those masters, of ourselves, where our emotions don't dominate our experiences, but rather our feeling of innate wisdom, innate peace and joy and confidence. Those things start to then generate, that inner vibration and that higher vibration to be able to then respond in those situations and always remain, they say, remain above afloat. So a lovely analogy that I want to leave with you is that look at a lotus flower. It is found growing in a very muddy, dirty pond. And when you look at the water, it's so murky and it gives you the shrivels, But what does the lotus flower do? Its roots are not, fully immersed in the ground, but its roots just take what it needs from the water, and then it's able to, be its beautiful, like that beautiful lotus. It offers its beauty. It has a beautiful, fragrance that it will also offer, but it doesn't allow itself to become the same as the water it is growing in. And so we will find ourselves in many environments which are sometimes toxic, which are sometimes not so positive, which is filled with negativity. But we're not going to then allow ourselves to be sucked into that atmosphere or that emotion, because our inner experience will then dictate what we're going to send out and what we are actually going to vibrate outwards. So at this point, what I'm going to do is maybe just invite you, if there's anything you want to share, anything you want to ask, please feel free to do so in the chat, or otherwise you can sort of open your mic and share. How are you guys feeling this morning? All good? Okay, everybody seems to be very relaxed and calm, no issues. Hey. So what we can do, okay, so Sharad is sharing that he's feeling good, thanks. All right, so if you, okay, go ahead.
Am I understanding that emotion is something that is generated from outside what's happening, and a feelings are what I generate from within myself?
Yes,
Is that
exactly. Yes, that is it, because the emotions, come as a result of something I'm seeing on the outside. And where I can sort of have that influence is when I realize that the feelings that I generate, so I could be looking at whatever is happening outside, but I choose to create the feelings inside of myself. And so that will prevent me from letting the emotional element of myself always be, so high and low and sort of erratic, in other words. Because people will normally say, you're an emotional being, and it's not that you don't sort of experience those emotions, but in a way you don't allow the emotions of whatever is kind of the external prompting you to do, you don't allow that to always make you feel like sad or upset or negative or anything like that. So I hope that helps you.
Okay. Sorry, I also would like to understand here.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like you're saying the emotion that is generated internally, it's like from internal. It's of a higher level vibration, but the emotions that is generated from external, factors is of a lower level vibration.
Yes.
And yes, is that what it is? I'm not
Yes.
very clear about
Yes.
that.
Yes, that's quite right. Because you see, the thing is, like, see, when something is happening, let's take an example. So somebody says something negative. So then the emotion will kind of just from the external, because you're looking at what's happening externally, you're listening to that anger being, sort of shared. So the emotion will come into the play where there's a reaction. So then that reaction sort of then has an influence on my feeling. So I always think that, that situation, is happening because that person, is going through whatever. But when it comes to me as the person, what I take in, I have a choice. So this is where my feelings come into play, where the choice that I make will then generate whether I'm feeling that anger and I sort of take in that energy of anger, or whether I say, okay, yes, that I understand that person is unhappy about XYZ, but what is my response? So in a sense, my feeling is like my response, how I'm going to respond in that situation. And the emotion is like those external things that I'm constantly seeing outside of me, in a sense. So those are my, like, my feelers, like my like, so if pain happens, okay, something needs to be shifted. So emotions are a bit like that, they are like little landmarks, that come our way. And so as a meditator, I think it's not that we stop sort of becoming, some people say you don't feel anymore. It's not that, but you don't react to those emotions. You don't become like a party to entertain those emotions that the external are trying to create for you.
Okay. No, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So if everybody is okay, I'm going to then also share a little reflection. So just perhaps we can have a lovely backdrop for our meditation. Okay, so let's experiment today. Whenever you start to feel any form of emotions of anger or sadness, see if you can consciously choose to feel something different, such as being peaceful and being contented. Then, as you try, notice what you are attached to in your mind, what you are holding on to and losing yourself in on the screen of your mind that is blocking your ability to choose your feelings. So as we take a moment, let's just reflect. Anything that comes our way today, what it makes us feel like. Does it make us move off center? Do we succumb to anger or even ego or even sadness? And when that scene comes our way, today let me consciously choose to let my response be different. Let me create an inner state of peace, a state of contentment, a state of understanding. So I allow myself to choose to feel differently, even though my external circumstances may want to dictate something else. So I remain centered. I remain at peace. So just like a storm may want to shake a powerful tree, the tree remains rooted, it remains grounded, for it knows its strength. And so after some time, the storm will pass and the tree will have remained stable, strong, grounded, rooted in its strength and in its power. So too, the circumstances that come our way each day, and it could be in the form of people we know, our family, our friends, our colleagues, people who are very close to us. And in that space, our emotions can sometimes get the better of us. So today, let me be very mindful that even though a close family member or a close friend may be sharing something that might trigger anger or sadness, I will be more aware and conscious to not let that emotion make me vibrate at that same level, but I will choose to vibrate at the level of peace, the level of understanding, the level of care and wisdom. And I will respond instead of being reactive and emotional. So having started the day on these positive thoughts and feelings, let me allow this vibration to spread and influence the rest of my day, my interactions, my conversations, and the things that I do. So even as I have my meal today, as I have my cup of water or tea or coffee or whatever it may be, let me just even fill that moment with appreciation, with care, with gratitude. And so as I do that frequently in the course of the day, I will be able to respond with that wisdom, with that understanding, and with the breath of fresh insight. And I will feel a lot more energized as the day progresses and as the day ends. My energies would not have been dissipated in the emotional exchanges of the day. So very gently, just absorb those beautiful energies to fill yourself. And very consciously bring your mind and awareness back into the room, back into this present moment, and choose to respond today differently to the very interesting situations that may come your way today. Om Shanti. So I wish you a beautiful long weekend. I know many people may be going away, so please be safe. Please take care and look after yourself. So Om Shanti, and have a lovely day further. There's a question if there's a session on Monday, and because of the public holiday, no, the next session will be on Tuesday.